Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Between Friends. I'm Eileen Roach, co-founder of Dime, and I'm thrilled that you've joined me this afternoon. We have a really fun class, in store for you. And I want to give a shout out to Retha Ranke, who is celebrating her 71st birthday today, which is absolutely hard to believe. Well, on Tuesday. So happy birthday to you, Retha. You're usually here with us every week, and it's good to have you back. You haven't been here in a little while. So today is a kind of really special day. First off, it's our second attempt to connect and trying to get Linda Johnston in the studio with us so that we could share this technique with you. We had some scheduling mishaps. So anyway, but we're all healthy and ready, and here we are. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. And that is ditching old school applique methods. And when I say old school applique methods, I'm talking about, like a Baltimore album, that everything is cut out by hand and needle turn and maybe even done hand applique. That's not something that I'm probably going to tackle in my lifetime. My sewing room, probably like yours, is filled with, high-tech equipment. And I always want to use that to make my sewing and embroidery and quilting and applique easier than using my hands and a hand sewing needle. So we're going to learn this technique that's going to give you precision finishes. So it's going to look like handwork, but yet nobody will be the wiser as to how you did it. There are some steps involved, obviously, because you're taking a traditional outline. That's all it is that this quilt applique designer created, right? Just drawing an outline for you to use as the go by, or the actual pattern to cut out your fabric. So this wasn't my idea, although I've done kind of versions of it through the years. But, 2 years ago, I was at the Houston Quilt Festival in October, where I had the pleasure of meeting Retha Ranke that day. And I was in All Brands booth representing Dime, of course. And I had a wonderful lady come up to me and introduce herself as Linda Johnston. She just said, I love your products. I have so much fun with your products. I've been working on this really interesting technique that I would love to share with you. She gave me her card, and I failed to connect with her over the following year. So here we go again, October, same place, right? Same bat channel. And here's Linda Johnston again. And I was thrilled to run into her. Now, maybe if you were also at a quilt festival this year, you may have seen one of her quilts. But before I show you what that was, I want to tell you what today's sponsor is, and that is our thread quartets by the Exquisite brand, which are just fabulous. This is a great opportunity to expand your library of thread, right? You can add the yellows and the browns, the blues, the grays, the reds, and it's just a, lowest price of the season, and I hope you'll take advantage of it. There are 10 different color families of this high quality 40 weight polyester thread, and we hope that you will rev up your stash with this special offer. So if you were in Houston this year, and maybe you wandered by the Baby Lock booth hosted by Be Sew In of Oklahoma and Texas, maybe you saw this quilt, which with its red, white, and blue splendor was just magnificent. This photo really doesn't do it any justice because you have no idea the size, the scale of it. But take a look at just how big it really is. So that is the actual quilt, and it is made by Linda Johnston, who is standing there on the left. We are in her home after our, connection in Houston this year. I traveled to her home in North Texas to visit with her, and I brought my right-hand person, Gloria Cardoza, so that she could assist and get to meet Linda, and we could learn all about her technique. So, and here's Aretha Ranke saying she did see that quilt, and she had her picture taken with it, pointing to Wyoming. All 50 states are in that. Now, that quilt, as beautiful as it is not the subject of today's class, okay? That is an embroidery collection by Anita Good Design that's available to all of you to purchase. And each state, I believe, has 3 different elements. So, you can go to Anita Good Design and learn all about that. But it is beautiful and very well executed by my good friend, Linda Johnston. So let's go ahead and bring her in.
Oh, good afternoon.
How are you? Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really a joy to be here.
Well, it's taken us 2 years to do it, but here we are, right?
Well, good things come to those who wait, right?
That's right. I agree. Absolutely. Well, I am so impressed with your work. It is just exquisite. Your use of color, for one thing, is very impressive, as the viewers will see as we see your home and see this topic that we're working on today. Of course, the red, white, and blue. You did pick out some powerful colors for that. You had a starting palette.
Right.
But
I really wanted to, those 50 states, I wanted to arrange them in such a way that it would highlight them. And so I used the red sashing and then having the stars and shaped like a flag. I think just showed off each state in a better light.
It sure did. It was just beautiful. So let's go ahead and talk about, I'm going to show the viewers. Let me see where we are. I have a whole lot of things here. So what you and our very first discussion was about this quilt pattern. Now, I guess we should both confess that we shop at the same quilt shop.
We do.
Yeah.
It's just the best around. And I was there about 6 years ago or so with my husband, and a sample of this quilt was on the wall. And my husband said, I really want you to make that.
Oh.
So I bought it, and it was a raw edge fusing. And I don't like that technique at all. So it sat for 4 or 5 years until my skills and my awareness of dime software and what could be done caught up. And then I was finally able to make the quilt because your software allowed me to do it in a way that we're going to talk about.
That's awesome. So the quilt shop that we both shop at is Quilt Country in Louisville, Texas. It's, neither of us live in Louisville, but it's a centering mark, right, on the map for us to connect to,
right?
For sure.
It's worth the drive.
It's worth the drive no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And just to give them a shout out, they are located right off of Highway 35, Route 45, which goes from actually Mexico all the way to Canada. So, if you're up north, come on down and take a right on Fox in Louisville. But they're open 7 days a week, and they are known for their collection of petite fabrics, and also they have a huge offering of Kay Fawcett fabrics. And beyond that, also they have just wonderful selection, Tula and Tilda, and you name it, it's in there, right?
Well, and the fabrics that I used in the quilt came from their shop.
I believe it. But just about all the fabrics you see here between friends come from that quilt shop. So, yeah. Okay. I have to take a little sip. So I thought that I had purchased this pattern, Linda. In fact, I think I told you that, I have that pattern. Well, I never did actually purchase it. I just admired it for all those years. But I kind of knew I probably wouldn't tackle that. But I might now because of what you have shown us here. So here we go. Barbara George says that she was just at Quilt Country this week. She loves them, and she sees Amy doing Facebook Lives when she's not home. Well, I love Amy. She's fabulous. And if you go in and ask for Amy, she'll most certainly say hello to you, but she's also great with color if you need a little assistance in picking a fabric, right? Yep. And, you know, those ladies in any quilt shop, they know pretty much the location of every bolt in the store. So if you need assistance, ask. Okay, are we ready? All right, I'm going to go through some slides, and Linda will well, here's the finished quilt that Linda did. Look at it. And it's big, Linda, right? How big is it?
Yeah, it's about 7.5 feet by 7.5 feet.
Yeah, that's very large. It's just gorgeous. Now, check out her use of color. You have an affinity to purple for sure, but I love how you complement it with those light pinks and that kind of aqua shade so that you really get the purples to pop. And oh, your use of color is just beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. I like that having it blended, but also having a variety of color in a same color family, so that they can accentuate. And one of the other things I didn't want to do is the original pattern was you do it in quarters and then sew the quarters together, and I didn't want that, so I don't have any seams. You know, I laid it out as one big giant piece of fabric and then did the applique on that.
Okay, well that makes sense because to have a big crosshair kind of seams, you know.
No, I didn't want that at all. So, so this, fortunately, now we can get beautiful fabrics in that 108-inch width, which allows this to happen. Otherwise, we're stuck with the 45-inch.
Right, it's usually sold as a backing, but there's no reason why you can't use it as a, you know.
No, it was the front and the back.
Right, for sure. Okay, so let's see. So here's a close-up. Now, look, you can't tell that that's done on an embroidery machine. It's just, and well, not that that's a detriment to the work. I mean, it's gorgeous. Look at it. It's just lovely.
So it looks like it's a needle turn and then hand appliqued, and that's the look I was going for. And it really, with your software, just made that happen.
Yeah, well, you nailed it for sure. So here we are visiting in Linda's home. And this is the pattern. So go ahead and, you know, you open it up and then where do you go?
Well, this is the pattern. It's a quarter. And the first thing I did is I took some very sheer stabilizer and I traced that pattern on the sheer stabilizer so that when I went to place the applique pieces on that large piece of fabric, I had a template. I would put the piece under that sheer and be able to position it. So that's the first thing I did so that I could position things. So you can see in the center there is one of a piece of sheer stabilizer that I traced that center piece, the little piece that went in the center.
Yes.
So that was important to do positioning. And then I took that pattern and I folded it so I could photocopy and get each piece. Wow. Now there was 358 applique pieces in this whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
But in that quarter, so I photocopied it and then I took it to the scan and cut. The scan and cut then would make a digital piece. I put that then into Dime software and Dime's cut and stitch. And the cut and stitch allowed me to manipulate that so that I could put, let's say if I needed 4 or 8 of a single item, and then I would take that from the scan and cut and export it back to my cutting machine, and it would cut out the interfacing.
I see.
Okay. So then I would take those same pieces. You can see the interfacing on the back of my fabric. Right. I took that same original piece that I had scanned, and I put it back in your Dime cut and stitch and made another template that had 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then it went back to the cutter and I cut the fabric. So I had then glue the interfacing onto the pieces of cloth and then turn it over, glue the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then you have your applique pieces.
Right. So I was intrigued by this whole, you know, our meeting and her technique that she shared with me. So I went ahead and I had imagine I had a quilt pattern in my stash at home that I've been, shocking, right? That I've been holding on to and thinking, oh, someday I'm going to make that. So I took her technique and I did it just a little differently. I only used our our software. I didn't involve the scan and cut.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to show you the process of doing that. So in Perfect Embroidery Pro, cut and stitch, doesn't really matter. So the first thing I do is load a backdrop. So now I've taken a photograph of the quilt pattern. And I go into the backdrop tools and I scale the horizon, just, because it helps to be precise, and then set the scale. Now that is very important. That's why the ruler is always in the image. And now I know it's 1-for-1. And then I just select the artwork tool and I'm going to trace right around that shape. I'm just dropping a point on the pattern. And, it takes a little bit of time, and, you can get real persnickety and adjust each individual point. And I do tend to do that, but, it eventually becomes your own work. So it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And then we just tighten up some of those extra curves, and those points always seem to need just a little bit more adjustment. And then once I'm happy with that, I select it and recolor it. I think I'm going to do that next so that it is easily identifiable as the vase. And do I do that now? I hope so. Yeah, there we go. Now it's pink. Now I'm going to do the bottom of the pedestal underneath the vase. Same thing. Now notice I'm not closing this shape. I don't need to, because I'm just going to leave that fabric is going to be underneath the top portion. So I don't need any E-stitches over there. It'll all be hidden. And then, I'm also going to go and do the individual leaves. Now I only need to do the 3 leaves on the right, the tulip, I'm going to call that flower on the right a tulip. I need to do that, and the stem. And all of those elements I will select once they're finished and mirror image them, copy, paste, and mirror image. So I don't have to do the ones on the left, right? It's going to be perfectly symmetrical. And, so I'll go through and do all of that. Then once that's complete, I'd select all the elements, and then I resize down to the size that I want. Because let's go to the overhead camera so you can see, here is the pattern that I used, and this is called Applique After Hours by Angela Lawrence, and it is really beautiful. But look how big that block is. I mean, that's really quite big. And I'm just going to make a pillow, so I sized mine down accordingly. And then I used those, all of those shapes that I just showed you. I cut out my interfacing. So I put that black interfacing on the scan and cut, and I cut out all of those shapes. So I did use my scan and cut for that, and this one is already complete. And so then I just fused the interfacing piece to the fabric that I selected, and I just a hand cut, kind of roughly about 1/4 inch. Didn't really matter to me that it was a perfect 1/4 inch, because I'm not a hand appliquer, so it doesn't really matter. Then back to the software, and I'm going to make the E-stitch. So, well, here, let's go back overhead one more time. Sorry. So here is one that's complete, right? So this is the leaf that is going to go right here. It's, of course, I resized, remember, but that is that leaf. And of course, there's, its other partners. That's how much smaller I made it. So I used some tools to fold this over, and we can do that right now, I guess. So I have the opposite one. So this one is complete. We'll just leave that there for reference. And Linda, tell our friends about these tools.
Well, the 2 metal rods are called Applique, and they're kind of expensive, but I must tell you that they are absolutely worth their weight in gold. They made that needle turn so easy. So this is what I did as well, as I used my glue stick, and then I used the Applique tools to, you see the fork holds it down, and then you have a little bevel that you use to turn that under, and then it's a flat bevel, so it actually presses that piece down to hold it. Yeah, just like that.
Mhm.
Now it goes so fast when you're using these tools, and I really could not have done. I'd still be doing needle turns to this day if I hadn't had that tool. So I just love that tool, and it made my life much easier to do all of those 358 individual pieces that needed needle turn.
Yeah,
And
and
it's especially helpful on the larger pieces where you have lots of curves. You have convex and concave curves that you have
mhm.
to snip little pieces in there to get the curve done right. So I love that tool, and I'm glad that Eileen that you got a chance to use it as well.
Yes, I'm still learning. I mean, I've done some pieces with it, but I am learning how to use it, and it is rather intuitive for sure. And you most certainly have to use a good glue stick, right? You have to make sure your glue is really going to hold, like right.
Yeah.
And do you press as you go?
Well, I press with that bevel, and
Mhm,
then after I do a certain, let's say 2 inches, I do take my finger and press it even more.
mhm.
But because the bevel is, yeah, the bevel is small, but it helps to turn and press it like
Yeah,
that, just like
it
you're
sure does.
doing. And just like any tool, once you get the hang of it, it goes much faster.
Right. Yeah, but we're getting there. Not
Yep.
bad. So,
Yep.
I would just have to clear off, you know, turn over this
Hmm.
side, I think is the
Right.
side because we want
Hmm.
these leaves will be in mirror image of each other, and
Yes.
that's how they'll go.
Hmm.
So, I'm gonna show you now, once you have these, now you need to make the E-stitch file, right?
This is
Because
the real trick. The real is
Mhm.
that you go back and well, I scanned, but you're going to do it through the backdrop method in the program,
Right.
because your original files that you used to cut the interfacing are not going to be exactly precise. So it's important now to go back and make a new file
Yeah.
exactly with around the applique piece, and that's kind of the secret trick of making this work.
And another secret trick is naming the files properly so
Yes.
you can keep track of them, right? In
Yes.
your quilt, you had over 300 files, right?
Yeah, I had 358 interface files, 358 fabric files, and
Mhm.
358 applique files. So yeah, it's important that you number these so that you
Mhm.
don't, because many of the small leaves in the applique pattern that I use were so similar to each other
Yeah.
that with a little bit of difference. So
Yeah.
labeling them was really important.
Mhm. So, but my project's not that complicated.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and take a look at that process. So, I have the right video there. There we go. Okay. We'll add this to stage, and here we go. So, again, you're gonna load your backdrop, and I took a photograph of the leaves that were turned. I placed them on a cutting mat and I took that photograph. And now I'm going to set the scale, I guess the horizon first, which, is just important. It helps all the angles stay the way they
Mhm.
should. And next up, we will set the scale. And I'm just left mouse click and dropping a point and dragging and then telling that that's 2 inches. And now you'll see it'll shrink down and but it's all actual size. Now, when I zoom in, I'm not resizing anything. I'm just magnifying my image. And then I select the artwork tool and I start tracing around the leaves, each individual one. And notice it's not going to be a closed shape for me because these elements are going underneath that vase, right? Because the vase will be added last. So I don't have to worry about closing that bottom. But you can, right? I mean, Linda sure did in all of her beautiful work. Everything was a standalone unit. And, I'm persnickety here. Now, I'd like to notice the shadow between the cutting mat and the fabric. Be careful of that and be cognizant of that you're not drawing around the shadow because that will skew, what you have going on here. So my lighting wasn't perfect. I just used my cell phone and I'm probably standing, under a light. So that's the shadow of the phone and myself in view there. So just be careful. You can also, in the artwork box, you can increase the weight of the outline, right? Because right now it's just a line in there. I'm going to, right in there, now I make it a 3 weight instead of just the 1. And that makes it easier to see because the 1 is so fine. It won't change your E-stitch or, anything that you're working on. It just is easier to see. So use that. It's right there in that box underneath outline, and it says stroke width. So if you give that a number larger than 1, you'll get a heavier line, which makes it easier to see. And, we're just kind of, you can see I really need a new cutting mat. Oh my goodness, it is time for a new mat for me. You know that you need a new mat when you change a rotary cutting blade and you're still having trouble cutting. It's time to get a new mat, right? Okay, so, and Joan Shriver, you says, Eileen, you sound like what I had for the last week. Yeah, I've had a cough for several weeks now, but I'm getting better. Okay, and then I guess we do this one more time. Let's see. Yep, one last time. We'll do that third one. And this one's pretty fast because it's pretty almost a straight lines, right? And we just go around that. But this is a great way to learn your software. So that, you left click to drop a point and you hold down the control key to make a curve and just a straight line without. But you can also select any point and right click and turn it into, if it was smooth, you can turn it into line. So it's a straight line. And if it's a line, you select smooth and that will turn it into a curve. So you have all kinds of control. All right, now we're going to remove that backdrop so you can see what we have. And we're going to convert that to an applique. And I'm changing from a satin to an E-stitch, and I'm removing the tack down. And I'm also making my stitch width a little bit skinnier to a 2.5. And these I could do together. I should have done that all 3 at one time. Now the key is I'm going to select 2 of the leaves and cut them off, right? Right click, cut, file, new, paste, and repeat so that I have each leaf in its own file. And I'm going to save them as, small right leaf, medium right leaf, large right leaf. And then that way I have, then I have all of my E-stitch files, and, I'll do that for each individual one, but that will give me my file. And that's pretty fun, huh? That did not take long at all. Okay, let's see. I think that's, oh yeah, then I'm going to send it to my machine. And when I send it to my machine, let me show you what happens. So I'll move this out of the way and I'll show you what I stitched. So I have my stem in place, right? I've already did the E-stitch outline for that and the placement guide and tacked that down. Now this is the outline for the leaf that's coming down next. And all I have to do is lay this in place, and now I stitch that in a highly contrasting thread so that you could see it really easily. It's not what I would stitch on my finished project. Linda used monofilament thread, which is a wonderful thread. It's invisible, and that's what a lot of hand embroiderers use. For the placement guide, maybe I would use beige, something that absolutely matched the background. And if I wanted to use my exquisite thread to do the E-stitch, and that's another choice. People like to see thread. So it doesn't have to be monofilament. It could be a nice lime green, same color as my leaf. And then I would just, get that in, this is part of the process, right? Color 1, color 2 is that E-stitch. Now, Linda, when you put your leaf down, did you use spray adhesive?
No, what I did is I positioned it where it was supposed to go, and then I took my machine that had the projector, and I just pinned the leaf where it was supposed to go. So I used that sheer tracing paper, the sheer stabilizer, laid it down, put my applique piece right under where it was supposed to go, and I pinned it.
Oh, and you
Then
pinned it.
then
Okay.
I took it to the machine, and then with the pin in place, I used the projector to move the design exactly where it was supposed to go.
I
Then
see.
I took the pin out, took the applique piece off, and did the placement stitch.
Ah,
Right.
okay.
Then I put the piece back and did the E-stitch.
Right.
So I'm sure that talking about it now, it seems like there should have been a more efficient way, but that way I could know that that piece was exactly where the pattern meant it to be, because I
Yes.
positioned it from the sheer template that I'd made. And
Right.
then in the machine, I maneuvered the design exactly to go over that piece.
Right. That's awesome. That is really very impressive. And I guess there's, you were working on a massive project.
Right.
This is just a block. So I could have placed, well, first off, in my software, I could have printed my elements, you know, that
Right.
vase of flowers, which I should have had that visual here. Just like I have the original big size, I should
Right.
have printed it off in the smaller size. And then I could sit because it's light colored fabric, I could put that underneath my light fabric. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and position it and be all happy. Now, I will tell you, you can most certainly use temporary spray adhesive. You could also use the glue stick, because I'm going to get that leaf. You know, you could put that glue right in here. The
Yeah.
needle's never going to stitch there. It's only going to be on the outside. So no harm, no foul, right? So, you know, you don't have to worry about stitching through that glue. So, yeah.
And I think if I was doing a piece that fit into one hooping, I wouldn't have had to bother with this, because you just position your pattern once and then everything is in place.
Right.
But
your quilt is 7 feet.
Yeah, well, I must say I didn't have to go to the gym while I was working on it, because the placement tables were downstairs and the sewing machine was upstairs. So upstairs to downstairs to upstairs,
Wow.
lots of walking. So
You got your steps.
yeah, I got my steps. That's right.
right. That's right. Wow. That's fun.
It was fun. It was really fun. As I mentioned to you when you were here, I just love big projects.
Yeah.
And it's also a challenge when you've got a big project, because you have bulk, you have to put placement, you have make sure the quilt sandwich stays together. You know, there's a lot of challenges that the smaller pieces don't have, but I just love the big projects.
And you have a lot invested in it. And I don't just mean money, but materials, you know, like you bought that beautiful purple background fabric because you love that.
Right.
So you don't want to get halfway through that and go, oh, I'm not going to finish it, right? You are invested in it by emotion and time, for sure, because it's a lot of time.
Again, I want to say that project sat for a number of years, 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years, because I knew in my mind the look I was going for, but I didn't have the tools to accomplish it. But I waited and I waited, and then I started taking your classes, the Software Success and other Dime software, and then there was that aha moment, like, that's how I can accomplish it with that program.
Right.
And that was a real eureka moment. So I dusted off the fabric and got going on it.
So when you bought the pattern, did you buy the fabric at the same time?
No, I didn't. I didn't buy the fabric. In fact, I bought a backing, but I ended up not using it because it wasn't quite right. I bought another backing later. But I didn't buy the fabric because I thought, no, I've got to wait until I'm really ready to go.
You're really
ready.
Okay.
I have to say, I spent hours and hours down at Quilt Country with bolts laid out and to get just exactly what would blend, but also show contrast.
Right.
And that was also a fun part of it.
And did you get any of it home and then have to, that pink's not right. Okay, good. So I'm not the only one who does that.
Well, in fact, there was a piece of fabric that I cut the fabric, did the backing, and did the needle turn, and it didn't work when I laid it out with the other fabrics in the pieces. So I jettisoned that and went back to Quilt Country and found something else. So
that's great.
I think that's a creative process. You don't know until you're actually there.
Right. We're not following a pattern. I mean,
Mhm.
you kind of are following a pattern, right?
Right.
You're starting with that
Hmm.
pattern, but from there, oh my,
I'm very picky
yeah.
about my colors and my textures. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't sit right, I'm thinking, I can't, oh, just go. You've already bought the fabric, just use it. But I can't
Yeah.
do that. I'm sure I'm like you, it has to be just the right
Right.
fabric.
Right. So here's Reen Wilcoxon, owner of Embroidery Garden, who's having on Saturday Reen's favorite things. So I hope you tune into her channel. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about here today. She says, does one of the Dime software programs have a trace feature? And she says, I'm thinking there is. I think she's right. There is some kind of wizard in there that apparently I don't use. So maybe if one of our team members that's watching knows, go ahead, tell us.
I remember something like that. I don't remember the specifics, but I
Yeah,
remember Ashley demonstrating that trace
right.
feature. Um,
Yep. It's
it-
yeah, there's a little wizard. Create an outline over areas with similar colors. Yeah. Okay. So, yep, there is. Somebody will teach us how to do it. We'll ask Ashley next week. Yeah, Marianne DeBagla, one of our great users. She is an avid software user. She says, what about the magic wand? Absolutely. So I guess we could have saved a lot of time by using the magic wand.
mhm.
Now, even with the magic wand, you probably have to go in and adjust,
Right.
if you're really persnickety, right? So, but oh, great. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Old habits die hard, don't they?
Well, it's actually learning what's in the software. The
Yes.
tools are there, but if you don't open the box,
Yeah.
say, gee, I don't recognize this
Mhm.
tool. And
Mhm.
that's really where Software Success and your
Right.
other educators are so
Yeah.
helpful.
Right. And here's
Learning.
Roy Garland, our tech.
Mhm.
He's absolutely our software wizard. And he says, yes, the magic wand. Laurie
Mhm.
Albrecht, who I understand was quite instrumental in helping you learn the software. And she
Yes.
says, yes, we use the wizard to create the outline. So I could have saved a lot of time by doing that.
Well, the next time I do a quilt that's 7 by 7, I will know, and it will
Yes,
go by
right.
faster.
Yeah. So Laurie, let's talk a little bit about Laurie Albrecht. Now, Laurie teaches our Inspired by Dime private lessons, which you
Mhm.
can get on Zoom for any software program that you have. It's a 30-minute lesson. It costs $30, and you go into that lesson with your questions and you get your answers. It's not a pre-programmed lesson like what I do here or what
Mhm.
Ashley does on every other Tuesday. This is a private lesson. You come with your inquiry as to what you want to find out, and that's what they teach you and more. So it's really worth it.
Well, I've done that, and what I do when I'm using the software is I accumulate a list of questions, and then when it gets to a certain number, then I call up and make an appointment with Lori, and I think,
Oh, that's
oh,
good.
how are we ever going to fit this in half an hour? And she is so smart. She just goes boom, 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 and all of
Yeah.
my questions are answered. And
Oh, that's wonderful.
that just helps use the software.
Right.
We all pay for it, and
Yeah.
the tools are there. So it's nice to be able to
Mhm.
utilize them to the fullest.
Absolutely. And earlier I mentioned about being invested in a project, but
Mhm,
we're also invested in the equipment that we've purchased, and
mhm,
software is an investment also, but the
mhm,
power that's in it, and if you take the time to play in it, and that's all you're doing is playing,
mhm,
you get a more proficient at it,
mhm. No,
right?
that's absolutely true. And one of the things that is a goal of mine with every project I make is I want to expand my skills.
Yeah.
So, well, like with this project, the one you showed, there were just skills that I developed. So every quilt I make or every project I do, what can I learn that I don't know now? Or how can I use the software in a way I wasn't using it now? So that each project I'm getting better. I'm learning something more.
It's
And
amazing.
that also stretches your creativity so you don't do the same thing over and over and over again.
Right, right. And in fact, I mean, I hope you don't mind that I share this, but
Mhm.
Linda has an Excel spreadsheet of projects that she wants to accomplish, and she has listed on there the skills she's hoping to learn. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I like that. One of the things I think all of us have is we all see that big pile of projects that's not done,
Yeah.
but we forget about all the projects we have done. So I keep that list and I move things from the to be done down to the completed file with the
Nice.
date. And so that if I'm thinking, oh, I don't ever seem to get a headway on all these, I can look at, wait a minute, look at all the things that you got
Right.
done.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I think we sometimes, we are seamstresses and embroiderers, and by nature, we're by ourselves doing that. So except for the Houston Quilt Show and other things like that, we are by ourselves. So some encouragement needs to be made, that we're doing things.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, we sure do. So speaking of encouragement, so let's go ahead and take a look at your process, because we talked about the nitty gritty, right?
Right.
But now it's a 7-foot quilt. So
yeah. So this was here's the background. And you on the far right side of the screen, you can see some basting, some little white basting stitches. That's where I basted just to show the position of the quarters. And then here's some of the leaves I finished. And so I put that sheer piece over and positioned these where they belonged.
Yep.
Pinned them down and then took them to the sewing machine, and they all have their E-stitch in monofilament thread, so they look like they're hand sewn. Right. So this was the very first how I started from the center, and then you could see more and more. I added more and more to each one that I finished, and that again they were all positioned correctly because I had that template. There was no guessing and ending up, with running out of space in the corners or something. So this was about, as you can see, this was about maybe a third done. And then I did the whole thing. And you can see it also at the top there where I've turned back the backing, turned it over and pinned it so that that wouldn't be flopping all over the place. And so that's how I slowly built up the pieces. And then there's finally the end of it. Yeah.
Right.
Now
that aqua piece, that kind of, I'm going to call it a flame, right? So is that one piece?
One piece.
Wow.
So I had to buy the 12 by 24 scan and cut mat for that piece because it's 23 and a half inches. So it just fit as one piece.
Wow.
And so you could, this is an example of where that Applique tool really came in handy because look at all those curves and concaves and convex. To do the needle turn on that was really a challenge.
Right.
And then I don't know if you can see it, but in the far right where you see the large purple that's in the corner between the square of the quilt and the circle of the applique, there's some quilting stitches where I quilted that part so that it wouldn't just be open, that there was some connection. And those designs are from your dime, it's from the dime Swirl and Paisley collection.
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, so here, let's go to the overhead cam. And you had provided me with a kind of like a handout. Of course, this is not in actual size.
So what I did is I put that in the software, and then I had to divide it into pieces that would fit into the hoop.
Sure.
And then I put the pieces from that collection in there, and then so it took 5 hoopings for each corner.
Right.
And that just gave a way to make sure that was quilted, since there was no applique pieces there.
That's awesome. So you don't have this big open area.
Right. And that corner. Again, I took a piece of that, just some paper, and I traced that corner, and then I cut the paper in pieces, put it as a backdrop into the PEP program, and traced it just like you had done.
Right.
So that then I could quilt that portion. And that was really fun. Thank you, everyone, for all your comments. It's really nice to share this with other people who can appreciate what this all entails.
Yes, because so many times we make these fabulous creations and then they just stay in a closet or maybe on a wall in your own home, but
Mm-hmm.
not many, and depending on how many people come into your house, it's kind of a private thing, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing I really appreciate being on this show to share is
Yeah.
that you don't have to have applique that's raw edge fusible. You can do this, and
Mhm.
it actually is a lot. It goes more smoothly than we've talked about.
Mhm.
You scan it, you use the software, and then you
Yeah.
can use that beautiful e-stitch with some monofilament, or as you
Right.
said, with
Yeah.
contrast with thread, and then you get this hand worked piece. And the other reason I didn't want the fusible um, raw edge is because I want that quilt to be used.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and you sitting on the couch and you're curling it up around you, and so those
Oh,
edges are going to come up.
right. And they'll
Well,
fray over
and
time.
they won't now because they're
Yeah.
sewn on.
Right. It's
So
absolutely. It's just wonderful. Okay. Well, speaking of beautiful, that Jeanette Yeager and Marianne de Broglie have said gorgeous. Let's show your sewing room because it's pretty exquisite. Now, I said to Linda, when I went to her home, we had a lovely visit. It was just lovely. And then later, when I was in my sewing room, I thought, wow, it was so tidy and so organized. That would have taken me like a week to prepare, to have somebody come in and, walk all over. So here we go. Now we're upstairs in her.
this is
She
the
has a,
hallway.
yeah,
This is the hallway with the Solaris
yeah.
and
And you have,
the dime snap hoop monster.
yep.
That is like forever. I couldn't do any of this without the damn dime snap hoop monster. I mean, that really has to be said because I was able to put that quilt in and do this applique and move it and fudge it, and that is like my number one all-time favorite of all your. Well, I can't say it's all of your products are my favorite, but
Yeah, but
somehow
that
this
snap hoop monster really
changed my
opened up
life.
the
Changed
world,
my
changed
life.
mine too, and
Mhm,
everybody's. Anybody who does what we do,
mhm,
it changed their life. Now,
mhm.
I'm just gonna bring this up, Janie, she wants to know, is PEP the only piece of software that has the magic wand? So could one of my team members please respond to that? Thank you. Because clearly I don't know. I didn't even know it was in PEP, right? Okay, so here we are next to the Solaris. So you kind of have like a hand area, hand embroidery, beading, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, this is where I do handwork and beading and ribbon embroidery, things like that. So this is actually the hallway. You can see the sewing room way down at the end where that light is. I started with a sewing room, and then it was a sewing room and a sewing hallway, and now I have a sewing room and a sewing
Yeah.
hallway and a sewing living room. It's
Right.
how it goes. So
But
this is
let's take a look. Look at that. Tell us about that piece.
this is a piece. I didn't do this piece.
Right.
Is by a woman named Julie Craig that I learned from, who
Uh-huh.
just has a magnificent way of bringing all kinds of beads and uh, found objects and ribbons
Yeah.
to make these really beautiful designs.
Just gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I figured the viewers probably are like me. I was just so intrigued. I love the tiny little things and all the textures and just lovely. Okay. And then this is into the main sewing room.
Yeah, so this is the wall where I have my books and my embroidery patterns and my all kinds of books with different embroidery techniques and sewing techniques and design books, all kinds of ribbons and buttons and everything is on the wall there, so I can see it.
Yeah. Lovely.
And
then the tool wall, right? You have to have that handy.
yeah, the tool wall. And I just love decorative buttons, so I have a big jar of buttons there. And this is another wall that's opposite of the first wall. And you can see a portion of my thread palette up against the wall there. I had that special rack built to hold all my threads so that I can see colors.
Yes.
And they're all handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then your cutting mat and table.
Right, and then there's the dime products in the front there. That seam, the ripper has just saved my life so many times.
For sure, for sure.
For all of us, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I know. It's almost embarrassing how handy it is in my sewing studio.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the kind of thing you wish you never had to use, but,
Right, and in fact, I use it so often that, it's, out, in
yeah,
within
mine
hand's
is
reach,
too, right
right.
there.
Okay, so here's a gentleman, Roy Garland, who now he is our software wizard here, and his comment is lots of scissors.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that that is a good observation because
Mhm.
when I was growing up, our household had one pair of scissors,
Yeah,
and you would get grounded for a week if you dared touch those one pair of scissors. So I think
right,
I've just been traumatized as a child about
right,
the one scissors. So I can't
absolutely.
get enough of having
Yeah,
scissors everywhere for
I
every
know.
use.
Like, I would love people to write in the comments how many pairs of scissors they think they have in their sewing room because, it's definitely double digits, and
Yeah.
that
Well, I'm
front
just a
number.
sucker for a beautiful. Now there's these beautiful little embroidery
Yeah,
scissors that are all ornate, and I'm
right?
really a sucker for those.
I know. So, yeah, me too. Okay, and then what's next? Where do we go next? Let's see. Oh, well, here now you do have quite a few machines. This is your Bernina serger.
Right, the Bernina serger, and
Mhm,
then this next to it is the FAF, which
mhm.
does some special kind of ribbon applique and beads applique that you could do with the machine, and
Oh,
some. I mean, there's no other machine that does that, and that's why I
mhm.
got that. So these are the machines. They're just there so that if I want to use them, they're all set up and ready to go.
Oh. Okay, so here's some scissors numbers coming in. Barbara George thinks about 30.
Woman after my
RBA
own heart.
is 10. Yeah, Brenda has a whole drawer, one large drawer. Okay.
Dedicate. Well,
Mhm.
it's just something that we have to have good scissors.
Yeah.
Oh, Kais are wonderful, aren't they?
Eyes are just the best, right?
Yeah.
Pamela, here's the most honest answer there, too many to count.
Good.
Definitely don't have enough fingers and toes.
Mhm,
Oh, and Julia says at least 50. I think I use them all. Well, yeah,
mhm.
I'm probably up there. Oh, and here's Dawn at Creative Application. She says 60 pairs of scissors off the top of her head, mainly because right-handed and then had to get the left-handed one. So I have double.
Mhm.
So why would you do that, Dawn? Are you ambidextrous? Do you use scissors in both hands? That's an interesting comment. Um, and let's see, Linda Brooks says, yeah, they're heavily used and they're used and heavily guarded. Oh, okay. No, Jenny says 80 plus. Some were her mother's.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. Well,
And Carolyn,
I
yeah.
still have the scissors I had when I was a teenager. I had a
Oh,
one special pair of scissors, and and especially I loved them because the point were so sharp. They
yeah.
were, 8, 10-inch scissors, uh, dressmaking shears, but I used to do cloth buttonholes, and you
Wow.
had to get into the corners, and these
Yeah.
scissors were special, so I saved them when I did cloth buttonholes.
Wow. That's wonderful. Carolyn Booth, I think she wins at
Oh, she
100.
wins. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
jealous.
Mhm. And Lori Albrecht, she loves the Karen K. Buckley, the
Yeah,
little free-handled one. I don't know what she
right.
means by free-handled, but, all the Karen K. Buckley are wonderful
They
too.
are.
Yeah, but Kai, I don't know, there's a lot of good ones, so let's see.
Well,
Okay,
I like the Karen K. Buckley ones because they come in pink and purple. So I have a fuchsia pair and I have a purple pair.
and here's what Joanne Banco says. She says she has a Mad Scissors case that says, "You touch my scissors, I break a you face." Yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, they're just kinda like, sewing machine feet, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you buy a new foot to do one task, and you
Right.
may not do that task again for another year, but when you do it, you're really happy you have it. It's kind of the
Well,
same thing with the
I
scissors.
think it just gets back to the idea that the tools make the project, that you have to have the
Yeah.
right tools.
Mhm.
And scissors are my love language. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's
Um,
cute.
so
Mhm.
that's what we've been talking about kind of the whole time here is that
Yeah.
the tools that we have, and if you have special scissors for one particular tool or a special foot or a special sewing machine that's doing specific kind of task, that's that makes our job as creators and embroiderers and quilters so much more full and rich because we
Yeah,
have the right tools.
absolutely. So here, I just wanted, Brenda Barry says she had to buy left-handed scissors, 8 pairs, to teach a left-handed grandchild how to use the different types of scissors.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Interesting.
Lovely. Yeah. And my granddaughter, who's just 2.5, she's going to be a lefty. She throws left. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So what else do we have in your sewing room? Let's see. We're getting kind of near the end. But,
There we go. Yeah. So
here's the main throne, right?
Yeah. And it's near a window, so I can look out over the street, and I have natural light coming in. And then we have, you can see my 2 ironing boards there.
Yeah.
The one ironing board that is the larger one there, that's my pride and joy. I bought that in 1972 for $1 at Salvation Army, and I still have it. It's a solid wooden base, and it's just a fantastic ironing board. I could never part with it.
Yes. It's like a member of your family.
It is.
And you've used it for like different things, right? I think you said through your career and so forth. It's been a table
and always there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the fact that it only cost me $1, really, it just kind of pleases me.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone's really impressed for sure. Okay. And then what is next? Now we kind of get a close-up view of your throne, which is just a lovely spot. It is.
Yeah, it's just that's my new Bernina, and that machine. I couldn't finish the quilt, the flag quilt at the beginning. I finished all the blocks, but I couldn't assemble it because for about 3 years.
Yes.
And so the block sat there because I needed to make the star block with the blue background, and the star, which I designed in PEP, is 12 inches wide. And none of the sewing machines I had an embroidery field that big. So finally, when the Bernina came out in July, I bought it because it had that large of a embroidery field, and then I was able to finish the quilt.
Wonderful.
So, again, it just gets back to the tools. We need the tools.
Absolutely. And then right next to your throne is one of our own the house projects, which is so cute.
Well, and I did this when you just come out with FX, special effects software. And so I made that to use as many different of those special effects as I could as kind of a sampler. And so I keep it there because I really like it. It's a fun piece.
That's awesome. It's really great. Well, Linda, it has been such a joy to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Terrific guest. You've inspired the viewers, and we've all learned from you on how to use Scan and Cut, how to use our Dime software to do new tasks, which is just amazing.
Well, I just invite everybody. They could come round, and we can have sewing weekends anytime. Because nothing we like more than sharing our sewing and quilting ideas with everybody. And thank you so much for hosting this and bringing me on as a guest. It's really been a pleasure.
Well, you are welcome. It's really been my pleasure and an awful lot of fun getting to know you. So I hope that you will come back in next week, right? On the 19th? No, that's not next week. That's
next week.
That is next week. I can't believe it, but I'm not going to be here. Ashley Jones is going to be here. So I hope that you'll join Ashley on the 19th, and then we won't have Between Friends at Christmas week or New Year's week. So we'll be back the first week of January on that Thursday, and we'll get rolling for 2025. Can you believe we're going to be talking about 2025?
Already now.
Really is amazing.
Well, have a great Quilting and Sewing Christmas, everyone, and a new year. And think about all those great projects you can do with your Dime software.
Oh, that you bet. Well, here, let's just answer Jackie Cleek. She says, it's been really inspirational. And her husband wants to know if your husband knows how many machines you have.
Well, I tell you a secret, Jackie, is I make my husband shirts.
Oh.
So anytime there's going to be a new sewing machine or a big box of fabric come, I just sew him a shirt, and he's just really, he's just happy as a clam. So that's a nice way we work it out.
Well, that's the complete reverse of a woman that I met many years ago in San Francisco. I was teaching a class, and her husband had asked her, honey, can you put a logo on my golf shirt, over and over and over again. And finally she turned to him and she said, my machine doesn't do menswear. So for whatever reason, she did not want to do those, but it's working for you doing menswear.
So. And in all fairness to my incredibly wonderful husband, he's the one who is always encouraged me to buy any machine I want, because he sees how happy it makes me. So he really is on board with that. And I do reward him with some nice shirts.
Right. But Linda, you got married later in life because you are a medical doctor. You've had a brilliant career for 30 some years.
Well, 43 years.
43 years.
As a medical doctor. And I just retired in July, just a few months ago.
Good for
you. But I have to say that sewing since I was 12 has always been there. And I think I was able to last 43 years without getting burned out, as so many of my colleagues did, because I always had creative outlets in sewing.
Right.
And that being able to go and turn off my analytical left brain and turn on my creative right brain and just have solace and peace and quiet in my sewing room has just made the difference. And I'm sure many of the people who are listening are also professionals. And you know how important it is to maintain ourselves so that I could be there for my patients.
Yes.
And sewing
we need that balance.
Always been a big part of that. Yeah.
Right. It's such a stress reliever for many of us.
Yep.
And we should never push it aside. If it's good for you, then you should do it because it's beneficial.
Well, they always say in an airplane, put your own mask on first before you help somebody else. And so for professions that are in the people business, like being a medical doctor, it was incumbent upon me to take care of myself, to be balanced and well-rested, and so that I could do the best for my patients. And sewing and quilting and sewing machines and thread and fabric, they played a big part in that.
That's right.
You're right. Doctor's orders, indeed.
That's right. I love that. Good comment for sure. So let's see. So Ashley Jones, she's going to be back on the 19th, but she's also going to be here, let's see, on the 17th. So next week, she's doing double duty. She'll be here Tuesday and Thursday. And her software success is on freestanding lace next week. And I think that you'll really enjoy that. And when she's here on the 19th at Between Friends, she's introducing a new product that all of you are going to love. So it's a great project for embroiderers only, definitely. So I know many of you were notified that we were going to do this event, and then we didn't do this event, and now here we are. And you're here because you have subscribed or liked us on Facebook. And if you haven't done that, please do that, because that does let you be notified of when we're going live. So, and there's going to be a little time off, so you'll want to know when we're coming back, right? And we hope that you'll share your projects on social media using these hashtags, Dime Sew Along, On the House, or Exquisite Thread. And when you do that, then we go and search and find them and share it right here so we can all see what you've been stitching on. Oh, aren't they fun?
Especially the ugly sweaters. They aren't ugly at all. They're just charming.
They really are. That's right. No, all charm, no ugly. But Retha said her son made her a sweatshirt that says, "Yes, I sew, but no, I won't hem your pants." And she wears it a lot. I like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was really fun. That's great. So this week's is, this is where you find the designs. You just go to dzgns.com, embroidery, free designs, and that's where you find them. Now, remember, at the end of this year, we're going to be pulling them all down. So please take advantage and pull them down now. You'll find all the whole year, 2004 there, 2024. This week is another sweater, and it's the Santa jacket. So I hope that you'll enjoy that. Just 3 colors there. Super fun. And that about wraps it up for today. But, you know, this is the great time to take advantage of this low price on the quartets, where you can increase your thread library and have whatever colors on hand that you need. There are 10 different color families, and each one 4 spools for just $10. We hope that you'll take advantage of that, right? Can never get enough thread, Linda.
Never enough thread. That's true.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Linda. It was
really
really
welcome.
here. Okay. Merry Christmas, everyone. We'll see you in 2025.